Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Blacksmith Furnace with me, Robert.
With me, Pete.
And like Mo here, yeah. See it. Come on.
Just quickly, how old are you guys?
How old are we?
Yeah.
I feel like
33?
there's a comment coming.
No. There's no comment.
You with a black eye.
I know.
There's no comment.
We're both 33. We're both 33.
33. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's it. That's all.
Are you
I
hitting
know.
30? You're 30 right now, aren't you?
I'm 31.
But,
You're
31.
youngin'.
Oh, God.
91,
what,
baby.
you're
91,
91, yeah,
babies.
that's it.
91.
91.
Oh, dear Lord.
You just squeezed in.
I'm a 90s baby, bro.
80s babies out here. Even though the 80s doesn't want to claim us.
Cool. All right. Spoiler. One of us has got a cold. I won't say who it is. It's not me. Anyway. What you say, Peter?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. I thought you said something. Anyway, I think Moses is in the hot seat this week.
Yep.
Cool. Mo, can I go first?
Yeah.
So Mo,
Pete is keen. No, I'm worried.
No. It's something that just came to mind actually, and it's what qualifies someone to preach. And I asked it because recently Joel Osteen's church had Tyler Perry go and preach, and do the successful. Listening to snippets of it, I don't know if if it was a good thing, but they hadn't gone and preach at the church.
Was it the one where he was talking about placing Bibles in front of his production company and stuff?
I don't know. I haven't watched the whole thing.
Okay. He's talking about he buried Bibles in front of it. So whenever you drive into the thing, you're having to drive over the word of God. I'm like, what sort of superstition is this?
That sounds demonic, bro.
Bro. Man them that sleep with the Bible under their bed thinking that's gonna ward off demons. Nah, bro, you're tapped. You're tapped.
I listened to some like clips of it, and in one of them he's talking Genesis 22, and Genesis 22 starts with, and it came to pass. How does he turn that into? The Bible says it came to pass. Therefore, whatever you're going through is not come to stay.
Yo, that's deep.
That's why he's preaching at Joel Osteen's church.
Yo! I need to listen to that sermon. I had it to the docket.
I think it might be the same one. We watched that last year.
Oh no, this was recent. This was last week or so.
Oh,
yeah.
Man's doing a series or something.
So the question is, what qualifies one to preach, to stand at the pulpit and preach? The success is a success a factor.
Hell no. I think there are different categories. I think there are different things that it's almost like a kaleidoscope of stuff, and each thing can be different sizes, or have different weights depending on times and seasons and stuff. One could be being trained. So it's like they've seen something in you, they can identify something in you. But again, what have they identified in you? They've identified so for me it would be a case of hearing from God. If I felt I heard from God saying, like, let this person preach, then like, do your thing. I would, if I was a leader, I would most definitely support you through that, kind of sit with you, kind of help you craft it or whatever it is. But I think it would be evidence of a consistent walk with God, like bearing the fruits of the Spirit and stuff like that. Evidence of understanding of God's word. Evidence of understanding how to apply God's word in wisdom to your life. Or, and again, it depends. If it's a case of, because some people can come and preach, but from a perspective of, I'm teaching you the word of God.
Mm.
And if it's that, then it won't necessarily be wisdom and application into your life, but more so how grounded you are in the word. Yes, Robert, you got your hand up.
Quick question. How much evidence is enough evidence? And what evidence is good evidence?
Okay, that's a good question. Evidence for me is just, I see a consistency. I see some level of consistency. I see some level of consistency of, like, I'm speaking to you week in, week out, and you're, even if you're not like explicitly saying, oh, God said this or God said whatever, like I can tell that, like, this person is in his word, like this person is spending time with God, this person is intentionally trying to walk in righteousness. Like, I sense something within you, and I sense that consistently. That for me will be a good evidence. And so it's relational. It's very relational. So it won't be a case of you come to church one day with John 3:16 on your back, and like, oh yes, this guy's, no, it's not that. For me, it will very much be a case of, I can see that you are being consistent in your relationship with God. And it wouldn't be a case of me just being like, you're preaching next week, but it would be a conversation. I would actually have a conversation and be like, all right, cool. Like, yeah, it'll be really pastoral for you to be invited to preach. It'll be a pastoral sort of relationship where I'm starting to get to know you. I'm starting to understand where you're at and stuff like that, which will then form the basis of whatever, which becomes trickier in a larger church. And that's why you can't do that by yourself. You need a cohort of people, a leadership team, where different people are actively looking and pastoring the church. And so, yeah, it will be evidence of a consistent walk with God, evidence of understanding his word, evidence of being able to rightly apply it into your life, and evidence of wanting to grow in righteousness. So I think those would be like the 3-4 things. Is it 3 or 4 things I mentioned? Yeah, one of those two that I'll be looking for. You got your hand up again.
I got another question.
Go for it.
So I think for most people, preaching is one of those things where no one starts off as a great preacher, you know, building the skills and stuff.
Yeah.
So at what level should someone be given that first chance to preach so that they can maybe, what's the phrase, sharpen their teeth, or like develop their skills?
Yeah.
Cut their teeth.
I think no one is a finished article at the beginning. It would be good to create different pockets of space for people to test out their gifting. And so whether it's like the youth group, or you're going to share, oh cool, you can share a testimony or whatever, like creating these little pockets of spaces where you can share, or maybe you share a mini message before the sermon or whatever. And so there's like steps for you, or you can come like midweek service, prayer group, whatever, and you can share something. And so all of those spaces are granting you opportunities to test the waters, see how things are, see how it felt, see what you'd like to tweak. If you felt unprepared, what does preparation look like for you? Like all of these things. So yeah, main stage Sunday would not be like, this is showtime, this is like prime time television where everything that's polished and good needs to be. And I think that will be something that has to be modeled by the leadership again, where we're not expecting perfection on a Sunday, where we want sincerity, we want a genuineness, and we want vulnerability, where there is this sense of it's not meant to be eloquent, it's not meant to be polished, it's not meant to be like a Hillsong sort of situation. Like we're not necessarily going for that. We just want people to be edified. And so that lack of pressure, the pressure would more so be, the emphasis would more so be on the evidence that I need, rather than how great of a job you are, how great of a job you can do. That's for me anyways. I know that other preachers would have other things that they would say. Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
Can you think of any situation where a Tyler Perry going to preach would be justified? Or would be the right thing to do?
No.
I can.
Okay.
I think if it's like a more so kind of like a testimony preach, where he's preaching about his personal experience with God.
Yeah,
I can't justify that because I wouldn't classify that as a preach.
Why?
I wouldn't put that in the place of a preach. Because I think that a preach, and again, this goes back to like the Shaolin days and stuff. When man them come on a Sunday, I want to create space for exposition of the word of God. I want to create space for, and it doesn't have to be like a biblical exposition where it's just like, oh yeah, let's comb through this, or like Bible study. No, I want there to be deep application, like a deep dive into the word of God and seeing, yes, and it will come through experience and it will come through those lenses. But if it's a testimonial thing, then I think I'll create other pockets of space throughout the week for those things to happen, rather than mainstay Sunday.
What for so much something more of like a testimony preach that's based, so it's a testimony, but it's also inspired by a certain piece of scripture.
Or even because the way I thought about it was, even if it's just him talking about how he's navigated his space as a Christian, and he is obviously, undeniably super successful. He owns studios and stuff like that. So how he's been able to do that as a Christian, I could see as being relevant to have on a Sunday. It might not have to be called a preach, but I could see that being beneficial. I could see that being a useful thing to have. And
I think that's the thing. If it's called a preach, then I'm like, no, this isn't cutting it. It's almost like high jump. This isn't going over the bar. But if it's a case of it's presented. So at my church, what we do is we've split Sundays into four Sundays in a month. There's an odd fifth Sunday, but the first Sunday is a preach. And then the second Sunday is focused on the practical application of that preach. And so it's almost like each Sunday has been split into a different segment, but it's all based off of the message that was preached within the first Sunday. Within that structure, I can see it working. I can see that working. But if it's a case of it's Sunday after Sunday we're preaching and that's what is anticipated, unless it's specified as being another thing, I would be like, no, let's reserve this space for what it is.
Cool. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy with that.
I know I'm being quite pedantic and regimented, but I'm just like, if we're gonna call something a preach, let it be what it is. Just do one thing, just preach. If it's something else, then specify that, set expectations, and let's have that there so that I'm not judging your preach based on standards it's not trying to be. I'm not evaluating it on standards that it's not trying to be. But yeah, Robert.
Cool. All right. My question is it's a bit out there. So there's no right, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. So one day, we're all going to get to heaven, stand outside the pearly gates, if there are even gates there, and we're going to have to give an account of our lives. What's the point of giving an account of our lives if the account won't determine whether or not we get into heaven or not?
So I may be mistaken. And Peter, feel free to correct me if I am. And I say Peter specifically because I know that Peter's been dabbling in Revelations. I don't think you have, Robert.
No,
but correct. and not even just Revelations, but Paul was talking about. Paul's been speaking about. He spoke about our works being trialed by fire. Like we ourselves would be saved, but our works would be trialed by fire. And I also feel like there will be almost two separate judgments that happen. For those whose names are found in the Lamb's Book of Life, you've gone past the threshold. So what is being judged are your works of faith. And so you giving an account isn't to get into heaven. It's of the works that you've done. So it's like you've been, so it's almost like the servants with the talents. You have been given these talents, give an account of what you've done with the talents. And that's the accounting that you're almost going to do. It's like, these are the talents that I have. I'm giving an account of what it is. And Paul speaks about things that are solid, in terms of things that were done in faith, that were done for the right reasons, will be tried, and you almost gain a reward for that. But things that were done not in the right heart and stuff like that would burn away, and you won't get that reward. But then
just before you go off, just two questions off that. What was the first question? Okay, I forgot the first question. Second question is, like, relatively, is there any reward that is greater than being able to spend eternity with God?
No, like that is the greatest treasure, but it is presented that as, I think it's almost like speaks about like diadems and crowns, and you lay in those crowns before God. And so it's almost like the more works, again, like, correct me if I'm wrong, also like the more works that you have done in faith, you're going to have more crowns to lay before God. And so this act of worship, your reward is almost enabling you to worship more. But when you do things out of selfish intent, it deters from that worship. It doesn't deter from you worshiping God, but it almost deters from the amount towards which you can worship based on the selfishness with which you've done certain things. But then on the other side, as Jesus said, you, like, to the people who was like, go to my right, you fed my sheep, you go to my left, you didn't feed. For what you did to those least of these, you did unto me. You visited them in prisons, you fed them, you clothed them, you gave them water. Like the goats on the other side, that's when it gets political. That's when it's like, oh, so you thought you knew what you did. Okay, justify yourself. Your name isn't in the Lamb's Book of Life. And you thought that your works would save you. So justify yourself. And then as you stand before a holy, righteous God, you start to unravel. You start to recognize your fallenness, your brokenness, your unworthiness, and your justification just doesn't hold any weight. And so you then realize, oh yeah, no, man, I deserve hell. Like, yeah. So that's my understanding of it. So it isn't a case of trying to convince God to take you into heaven. Because if your name isn't in the Lamb's Book of Life, then your name's not in there. But if your name is in there, then it's from a perspective of evaluating your works of faith to seeing if it came from a genuine place or not.
Yeah, I think the Bible even describes it as, like, you make it into heaven, but it's as though you just made it, like you just got through. And then there are those, because we are saved unto good works. So in as much as the good works don't get us into heaven, the good works are expected of us, having now been saved, and now being empowered to do so. So yeah, I think the imagery is just as you described, more having crowns and that second. So we're saved from the first judgment. That's that second judgment, as you said, is more an evaluation of the works that you did. And I've heard it twisted into, oh, you get your buildings and you get your houses closer to the throne. You get to build your thrones closer to Christ's throne, which I think, again, is a misses the point. Misses the point. But we are called to good works, and those good works will get evaluated, and we will get the opportunity to have those crowns and place them before God. So yeah. And as much as the accounts that you give if you are saved isn't what gets you to heaven or not. It does allow for the verification of.
Cool. I'm happy with that. Oh, why did you keep muting on muting?
I just discovered the space bar is a shortcut to mute. So I'm going to use that next time I need to cough.
It's not working.
Oh, well, then that's just you. Is the window in focus? Is your browser in focus?
It's on full screen.
No. Is it in focus? Like, is that what? Why are we talking about this on the podcast?
What are you talking about? Anyway, forget. Let's get into a conversation for today. Quick history lesson. I need you guys to give me a quick history lesson because I don't say the wrong thing.
Because we're 33, so we've got a history lesson to give you.
Yeah, bro. You've got the tomes and the archives, bro.
This guy's pagan.
Okay, so what is the origin of stuff like oxtail?
Oxtail?
Bro, you know we're 2 years older than you, right?
Humor me for a second. Okay, so I think that what I heard as the history of oxtail and cow's foot and all of these kind of things it was the like leftover parts.
Like soul food.
It's like what?
Soul food.
Soul food. Like it's the leftover parts from the slave owners that would give them to the slaves, and then they'll cook it and stuff. I think yes, I do think that as well, but I also think there's an element of economical use of all the resources you have, because those in Africa weren't slaves. Like it was African Americans and those in the colonies and stuff who would be given the leftovers.
Were those in Africa eating that?
So I know, like in my mom's village, they would eat every part of the animal. Like you legit get a soup with the cow's head in it.
Yeah. We had that as well. Yeah, goat's head.
Yeah. Like you just barely see a tongue. You see a tongue just floating in your soup. It's mad. So I think
the straight eyes of the goat, literally the head looking at you.
And it's just that one little line. Come like Jiraiya's toad. Just that one.
That's demon worship, bro. That's demon worship.
How did we get there?
How are you going to eat soup with a goat's head in it? That's demonic. That's the look, demon worshiper.
Go read Corinthians, fam. So I think in terms of traditionally, I think it's economical use of the resources you have. I think it's an economical use of the resources, but I've also heard the origins of from slavery, where it's like literally you'd get the leftovers that the slave owners didn't want, and that's what you then had to work with. And so you kind of make it into what you had the opportunity to make it into.
I heard that argument as well for not prehistoric times, but when there was hunter-gatherer, and you go hunt and you catch a wild boar, you're not throwing part of the wild boar away because you don't know the next time you're going to eat, and so you eat everything as Mo said. So it was head to tail, every part of the animal was being eaten. Soul food definitely was the parts that the slave owners considered wasteful or that they didn't want. They then gave that to the slaves, and the slaves then made of that soul food, which is why it's so unhealthy, but also so tasty at the same time. And so I think those are the origin stories, if you will, which are not from the 2 years of life that we had before you.
You had all
well read.
You had all the answers, and you lived it like you were back then in slave times.
How dare you?
Anyway, hold that thought for a second. So this week there were a lot of what's it called? Game showcasing events. Showcasing new games that are coming out, right? So you had the new Assassin's Creed game that's coming out. They finally they finally revealed the new Legend of Zelda game.
Okay.
Tears of the Kingdom, coming out next year. Look out for it. What's Tekken 8 is coming out too. She's looking sick, bro. All of that. And so it was on all the different various channels and stuff, all the various channels, whatever. And so IGN was part of this. And I think it was IGN that broke what I want to talk about today, right? So there was a trailer for a certain movie that came out. The live action adaptation of The Little Mermaid.
Yeah. That's gonna be interesting.
Yes.
Oh, have you not seen it? No.
Have you not seen it, Moses?
Nah.
All right. Well, spoiler tag. Little Mermaid is now black.
Oh.
This isn't news though. This is from way before.
But then it's the first time it's been shown.
Mm.
All right. Yeah. So, Pierre, you seen the trailer. What do you think about Black Little Mermaid?
I think it's unnecessary. Sorry. I know. I think it's unnecessary. Because the character is so traditionally white, and it's such a traditionally white story. I wonder if it's really necessary for, like, I don't know. Was she the best person for the job out of the auditions? Maybe, because she's a good singer. Haley, whatever her name is, like, she's a dope singer, and it's a musical, isn't it? So in the trailer, they're doing part of that world, and I think if it's that of the people that audition, she's the best. Fine. I don't know if that's the case. I think they're trying to do some woke stuff. And they're like, yeah, we'll give this to a black character. It's just weird because we know what the story is supposed to be or what it's based on, and that character was clearly white. Because this one, she's even a redhead as well, which won't be possible unless she's dyeing her hair at the bottom of the sea.
I mean, it won't be possible for her to be a mermaid either.
Fair point. Hell. That's a fair point. That is a very fair point. Yeah. I also know, and this is random, but Lizzo lost the role of Ursula to Melissa McCarthy. And so that was a big thing as well.
Pun intended.
Oh, dang. Yeah. But I think it's unnecessary. I just think it's unnecessary.
Cool. Well, Moses, you have daughters who are a bit older. How are your thoughts about there being
how important is it for you to see a black mermaid?
Representation.
Something for them to aspire to.
I just watched the trailer right now, actually. Yeah, I don't know. Like the trailer obviously is Disney. Like, it looks sick. The way they've got her underwater but looking dry. I'm like, raw. Like, she don't. It's mad. But it's still like the hair's floating.
But to be fair, when you're underwater, you're not technically wet. It's only when you come out of the water is when you're wet.
Yeah, but there should be liquid around you. This, like, the mermaid looks dry.
Is it? Wait, where's
like the mermaid looks dry. Like, it's mad.
Water. Oh, it's okay. Like an Aquaman.
I'm gonna have to research. I'm gonna have to look at that again. But how important is it for me that my children have representation? It's very important. But I don't want tokenized representation. I don't want representation that is almost in hindsight. It's a fictional, like, fantastic story from the sense of it's fantasy. And yeah, I wouldn't have been sad if she was white. I want to see what the man is now. If the man is still white, there's going to be some pushback.
Man, like Eric,
there's going to be some pushback. Cause like, oh, so what? You can make Ariel black, but my man can't. Like, she still needs to go for a white dude. That black man can't do this thing now.
That's pretty 2022, to be honest.
Pardon?
That's pretty 2022, to be honest.
But even with the lady, is it the Lady and the Frog or whatever?
The Princess and the Frog.
Princess and
the Frog. That was the pushback because they made the princess black, but the prince was white, and it was pushback. Oh, so what? You can make the princess black, but the prince can't be. And again, this white savior complex where it's just like, oh, so what? The white man needs to come save the black girl again, yeah. So I wonder how consistently they'll do it. But yeah, I think, even with Pocahontas, that didn't age very well.
Right, Pocahontas was a sick movie.
Yeah, bro, I don't agree with aging well or not. Like, it was at the time, and actually, I think for the story that it was, still is a dope story.
Do you know what? It's like the story itself is sick. They made some relevant points and stuff. I said it didn't age well. I didn't say I didn't like.
Yeah, no, but then that's the thing. What do you mean? No, what do you mean it didn't age well?
So
our values have changed now, and so when we look at it from now, we don't accept it, or.
So I think in terms of just the whole notion of do you know what? The visual representation was interesting, but the moral implications still hold relevance in that the white dude came as like the savages.
The visual display was relatively accurate. It was still colonizers doing colonizing stuff.
Yes.
And this Indian chick is telling you the truth. Like, you know.
Have you ever heard the walk to the blue corn moon?
Fam, you're only on Earth until you realize. I forget the line. That was gonna be a good line.
You can own the earth and still all you own is earth until
there you go.
You can paint with all the colors of the wind.
There you go. That's the line right there.
Okay, now you know I take that comment, I take that statement back. But yeah, when I watched it again and I was just like, this blonde hair, blue-eyed Don just running amok in this thing, trying to sample the world, and that these times still thinking about the areas he's trying to sample as being beneath him and savages. He learned his lessons in that though.
And to be fair, the story is a lot tamer than the source material, because I think that she was like 12, he was like a grown man, and he was sexually abusing her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank God they didn't do that.
And so
but the reason. Sorry. So Mo, how does, because I hear what you mean about tokenized representation and how useless that really is. But how do you feel specifically about The Little Mermaid? Like, will you be taking your girls to go see it?
I will be taking them. Most likely, I'm not going to be taking them to see it. We'll see it on Disney Plus. But it's not because they're black. It's not because Ariel's black. Like that's not why.
Because the story itself is fairly nice. Like, it's a good story. Like The Little Mermaid.
Yes.
All that old school Disney was actually a lot, like, really, really decent stories and had some morality to them.
Yeah. If they made a mainstream Superman movie black, like Superman Black, I'm taking Noah to see that.
But there's a version of that in the comics.
But that's why I said a mainstream movie.
Yeah, I heard Michael B. Jordan was attached to something like that as well.
If they did that, it could be 12 plus. Noah, I'm sneaking you in. We're watching that. Yeah, we're watching that.
But why do you take him to go and see a black Superman movie, even though Superman has never been black, or like Clark Kent Superman has never been black?
Clark Kent Superman has never been black. I think
there's different Superman in the comics.
There are different
in the comics, but there'll only ever be one Superman.
And that's why I said a mainstream Superman. Like
look at how successful Into the Spider-Verse was, and that was a Miles Morales Spider-Man.
Yeah, but the Spider-Man will always be Peter Parker. You can try and bring the black Spider-Man. Spider-Man will always be Peter Parker.
But look at how successful Into the Spider-Verse was.
It can be successful. You can put as many Jordans as you want on Spider-Man, but Spider-Man will always be Peter Parker.
But look at how successful it was. Like, we saw Miles Morales. We saw him as Spider-Man, and it was one of the more successful versions of Spider-Man.
Was it more successful than No Way Home?
I don't know. I don't know if it was. But I know that it won awards for that.
I think with No Way Home, it's the amalgamation of the 3 different Spider-Mans that really sold it. Yeah. That if it wasn't for that particular thing, myth.
The point I'm making is you can make a good black Superman movie because that's consistent with the comics. Like, we've had that before in the comics, so you can make a good black Superman movie.
Yeah, and I think the reason why that would be more significant is the position that Superman holds universally as a symbol. So to make a mainstream film about Superman and make him black is now attributing that universal symbol with a race, whether it's it will be intentional, but it's associating him with a race outside of the stereotypical race that has always been associated with.
I disagree.
You would do.
What do I would do?
Because that's you, like you're when it comes to comics, I feel like you're quite a purist.
No. Forget comics. So the reason I was talking about the oxtail before, right? Mm-hmm. Here comes the analogy full circle.
I was going to say, it all comes around. Yeah.
I feel like with a lot of media today.
Oh, how dare you? I think I know where it's going.
Black people be getting the oxtail. You're like, oh, you want a character? Yo, take this white one, just make him black. You know? Yes, Miles Morales is good, but he's legit Peter Parker, black. Same origin story.
No.
Same powers plus electricity.
Different powers, yeah.
No,
it's powers plus electricity and invisibility.
No, I don't think it's the same. Okay, so for the most part, all of the Spider-Mans have had like virtually similar origin stories, with one of their family member dying, something happening, and then boom, like there's that common thread. But I think in terms of you don't need a unique origin story to make a variant of a superhero unique.
Wait, say that again.
You don't need a unique origin story to make a variant of a superhero unique.
I mean, you said that. You say that. What's his name? Dick Grayson, Robin.
Okay. Yeah.
Jason Todd. They legit tried to give Jason Todd Dick Grayson's backstory, and everyone hated him because it's like, what's the point? We have that origin story as well.
But and no, then it's like. So in terms of Miles with Spider-Man, you like Into the Spider-Verse, you actually bought into the relationship that he had with his uncle.
Yeah.
You recognized the tension between him and his dad. You cared about that relationship. You genuinely did. And for that then to become his origin story, as an audience, you're invested into that relationship, and you can empathize with how that, like his uncle chasing him not being able to figure out what to do, his uncle then finding out that it's my nephew, and then losing his life after that realization is like that there is an emotional resonance there. And if that is not done well, if you just try to copy and paste something, it's not going to work. If that emotional resonance isn't created, whoever it is not going to work. And I think the reason I think it works with this one, and I made that statement, is that we were taken into Miles Morales' world very well. We lived the day with him. We saw his relationships, we saw the strains, and then things deviated. And so even though it's a similar narrative, there are uniquenesses which each variant carries of their own. And so as each Spider-Man, each version was kind of telling their version of them losing Uncle Ben. Each one of them had slight differences that was relevant to them as individuals. So Gwen had lost Peter Parker, and that has changed her. So they all had lost someone, but it was relevant to them and where they are in their lives. But if Gwen lost Uncle Ben, if everyone lost Uncle Ben, then it's just like, oh, we're just losing Uncle Ben. It's mad. But it was individualized to each person. And I think that's what I mean by the origin story doesn't have to be like unique in the context, but it's individualized for each variant.
Yeah. I think the thing to note as well is a lot of these characters were originally designed by white folk. Like I'm thinking Stan Lee for the most part, and you know, so you're always going to draw from what you know. So understandably, a lot of his characters were white. And where he did like in the guy with the 10 rings in the comics is like quite literally, I don't know if that's Stan Lee, but quite literally racist. And so they had to switch that up for the movie. It was FIFA or something. Like even his name was ridiculous. But I don't know if it's leftovers in as much as you do what you're familiar with first and then you expand, or then you get more people of color get more opportunities to then write their stories. And again, they start with what they're familiar with, which is what they know, which is them. Like if I'm writing a story, I would always initially first write it from a Black person's point of view, because that's the point of view I'm most familiar with. And then I'd expand and maybe I want to try and write it in whatever, you know. But I think, I don't know if it's so much leftovers as it is just what they're familiar with.
The reason I say leftovers is like, yes, Stanley created a lot of white characters and thing. He also created Black Panther. He also created Storm. Two very sick. Even there's what's his name? There's Blade as well. You know,
it's interesting to see which of their runs gave them like a more truthful Black origin, and if those runs were run by Black people, it'll be interesting to see.
It would be. And you know what? I think I prefer the Stan Lee Black Panther to the movie Black Panther. Just because Black Panther as a character in itself, he's too perfect, which almost makes him a bit too boring, right? The only one good characteristic they gave him was his nationalism, and that he would put patriotism, where he would put Wakanda over everything. Like and there was one point where Dr. Doom had his mum, and Dr. Doom said, "Give me the codes, or I'm going to kill your mum." He was going to let his mum die if it meant saving Wakanda, you know. And that was stripped away in the movies, and so you've just got a Catman. No, he's not just a Catman.
You're not going to disrespect those movies. Nah, that's not true.
What do you mean movies? What movie?
Well, because Wakanda Forever is coming out, so movies. No, that's not true. That's not true. I don't think that was stripped away per se. I think they just made it such that it was, we've got the ability to help others, let's help others. And that's what it did.
And Black Panther was supposed to be like fifth smartest person in the Marvel universe. And they just took his brains and put in Shuri.
Yeah.
Crazy. They can't even let Shuri be Shuri and Black Panther be Black Panther.
Female empowerment.
Come on.
Well, Shuri in the comics was sick. She was, anyway. Okay. What does good representation look like to you guys?
Yeah, I'll let Mo talk on this.
Mad. I feel like it looks.
Okay. Let's talk about in the media, and then let's talk about in church.
Ooh. I feel in society and like in the media, I think it should look authentic. It shouldn't be stereotypical, in as much as reality sometimes falls into stereotypes. But I think it shouldn't be contrived. And what I mean by contrived is when a black person passes away and then they use another black person's face and be like, oh yeah, this person passed away, when it wasn't that person. Because all black people look the same.
Wait, what? Say that again?
What?
Did that not make sense?
Nope.
So let's just say black person A dies. And then instead of using his face, they use the picture of black person B.
Okay.
Because black person B they're both celebrities. Black person B, we get their picture and then we substitute for black person A. Because old black people just look alike.
It's like when mistook. Yeah, it's like when that guy mistook Samuel Jackson for Lawrence Fishburne. Have you seen that interview?
Yeah, but that was ignorance more so than.
And I think there was a newspaper as well that someone had done something, and then they put Stormzy's picture there.
It looks like the kind of guy that do something.
It's like, dude, not contrived, not in ignorance. Like there's a genuineness of trying to convey humanity. Which is saying a lot and not saying anything at the same time. I think it's that there should be that's actually a good question. I think it just has to be authentic. Authenticity.
But then can it ever be authentic in a world where there are quotas for how many black people there need to be in a certain space or in a certain set?
Then it's like that representation in terms of in the media isn't or shouldn't be reflective of representation in a workforce. If we're talking about media in terms of news and stuff like that, and just like depictions on the screen, it doesn't have to be 1% of, even though sometimes it is. I'm realizing how tired I am. Trying to form a coherent sentence, I'm realizing how tired I am.
Tired of the racism.
That too. Yes, that will influence, the quotas will influence who gets on the screens and blah, blah, blah. And with society now gravitating more so towards extremes for different reasons, if you're not extreme in the way that you represent yourself, or not extreme in the way that just present yourself, then you almost kind of get swept in with the rest of the people, which then leaves more room for stereotypes. But I think authenticity would be the main criteria for me in representation, especially in things that are factual or has some level of reality to it. The Little Mermaid doesn't. In its fantasy world, it doesn't. The underlying message may do. The underlying message of like, oh, whatever it is, fight for your dreams or whatever, that may have emotional resonance. But the world in which it is built is a fantasy. And so for me, I'm like, it is what it is. Again, Superman, that world is a fantasy. Spider-Man is a fantasy. It's dope, but it's the reason that with Superman specifically, I'll be like, yeah, I'll be on it, is because of the symbol that it has become. Like that S alone just stands for something.
But it stands for something because of Clark Kent.
Yes. But Clark Kent arguably isn't because he's white. It's the morals that he stands for. He almost stands as the fictional Jesus. I guess atheists will be saying that's an oxymoron because they're both fictional. But it's a case of like in the comic world, Superman isn't the guy who doesn't do any bad, but he almost stands at the pinnacle of the ideals of this all-powerful being who stands up for what's right. So he almost stands in that position. And then to have a black person like there, I'm like, yo, yeah, we're doing something.
Bruv, that's why we have Jon Stewart. No, seriously. No. Honestly. Why can't Jon Stewart be seen as higher level as Superman can be?
Who is Jon Stewart? Man's doing the Google search.
He's a Green Lantern. He's a Black Green Lantern.
The Black Green Lantern.
Okay. No, but
his movie came out recently. It was kind of whack.
Nah.
Which movie?
The Green Lantern, Beware My Power.
Bro,
animation. Kind of.
Oh, it's animation.
You can't. There's no correlation between the Green Lantern and Superman.
So here's my thing. Here's my thing on the whole representation thing. I think it has to be addressed a lot earlier than at the point of execution or at the point of selection. So what I mean by that is, if there aren't, if there aren't enough, I don't know, colored actors, then does it mean that in your society, in your communities where there are lots of... Sorry? Oh.
That was you that I killed.
Sorry?
Nah, yeah, it was you, but I had taken my headphones out. So...
Cool. Yeah, so if then in those communities, maybe the acting profession needs to be more encouraged. And then I say that as a very specific example, but I think at the point of selecting actors, you select the best one. I think the same thing for ministerial positions. I think the same thing for any sort of work. You select the one best for the job. You won't go to a doctor and say you want a black doctor or you want a black surgeon. You'd say you want the best surgeon, because that's what they're going to do, and their race really has nothing to do with their ability. So if the best surgeon happens to be white, then so be it. If the best surgeon happens to be black, then so be it. What matters more, I think, is then addressing the communities that those surgeons will come from and encouraging them to pursue that. And so I think it becomes an education thing.
If they want to.
Levels. If they want to, of course, yeah. And so then you have stuff like at least African American parents. I say African American parents. African parents that have immigrated tend to be less encouraging of their kids pursuing artistic endeavors, because those are less prestigious or because those are less stable. And so they always want to push them to engineer, lawyer, do this, do that. And so then you find in the artistic areas, you don't have that much representation there. But I think the way that you avoid token representation is to address it much earlier on. And so it won't be addressed like immediately. It'll be addressed with the next generation coming up. And if you have educated them and given them every opportunity to pursue whatever it is they want, then you will find more of them in those spaces, more of them capable in those spaces, and able to take some of those roles because they are good enough to do so.
I think that the media and the world need to pretend like there have never been black TV shows or black people on media. You know, we grew up with the Proud Family.
Can I point something out? I don't mean, this isn't, I'm not critiquing anything. I'm more so making an observation.
Mm-hmm.
We only tend to talk about black people because we're black, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what is our concern, is what we see and stuff. But then there's also similar issues for Indian people and Jewish people and people of other races. And I think it just goes to further the point that you will always do what you're familiar with, or you always speak to what you're familiar with. And so white people are just doing the same thing. They've been familiar with whatever they're familiar with. It only so happens, unfortunately, there were a bunch of colonizers beforehand.
Mud.
Yeah. Well, no, carry on, sorry. I just wanted to point that out.
And you're right. You are right. So yeah, I'll let you talk, Robert. Go for it.
Just to say, everyone here enjoyed manga and anime. That's Japanese representation right there. Come on. And you even like, what was that show you guys used to read? What was it? Was it something Gods of the High School Tower? Something.
Oh, well, no, God of High School, and then there's Tower of Heaven or something, which is
that's Korean.
Korean, yeah.
That's see, even more representation. So we care.
Again, is it representation or is it just that these are good? Because there's a bunch of stuff, but these are good, and so they garner your attention.
Exactly, and they're good without trying to force. Oh, we need to have X, Y, Z in here. You know, the good shows will rise to the top. Marvin Kids, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, 101. The good black shows rose to the top. I'm sure there are other black shows that were not good that didn't, like Desmond's. Desmond's was alright, but it wasn't on the same level.
Desmond's okay with Fresh Prince and stuff.
You got someone married to Jamaican. Don't say
those ones were
about
American. Desmond was British. Like I feel like for the most part, British media hasn't done as well as American media, and so even you have British artists, whether musically or like film-wise, traveling overseas to be able to get stuff done. I just feel like there's a different. But Desmond Banks.
It was all right.
I think in terms of representation, Peter, you're right. Representation isn't only what we see on the screen. Representation isn't just what we see on the screen. There's a whole conveyor belt before that. There are producers who produce these things. There are screenwriters. There are editors. There are people behind the scenes who make what happens on the scene happen. And without diversity there, the diversity that we have on the screen can almost just be tokenism. And that's why you have a lot of actors now, black actors now, who are like, yo, let's go back. Let's go down. Let's go higher in the food chain and start making these changes so that when the work actually comes out, and not all of it is good. Like, what was the film that you lot watched that you didn't like? I've forgotten what it's called. Nope. Like, not all of it is good. Not all of it is good. But at the same time, these other dons have had opportunities to make rubbish and not be graded by it because of whatever.
Oh no, we still say it's rubbish.
Well. No,
it's rubbish. We say it's rubbish.
If someone like Michael B. Jordan made rubbish, there will be a much harsher critique because of the levels and stuff that he's gotten to.
I don't believe so. Like Adam Sandler makes a lot of rubbish, and he is fairly told he's rubbish.
But with Adam Sandler, fam, he's Waterboy. Like, from time you've played Waterboy, like it's peak for you.
What's Waterboy?
There's a film, Waterboy, where he plays this little mama's boy who is given it's a film. It's a film called Waterboy.
It's an old film. It's an old film.
It's an old film. But it's like his whole career has been made off of these, like, that's the category of films and stuff that he's almost placed himself within. But in terms of Michael B. Jordan, with the caliber of films that he's in currently, if he's to make a dud, I think there'll be more critique. They're not because he's black, but just by virtue of the spaces that he's been in. And so there's not as much freedom to make mistakes when you hit certain levels.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I think that there's so much content out now that if you make a dud, people will see it, talk about it for two days, and then forget about it, move on to the next thing. Maybe if it had been like 10, 15 years ago, maybe. But today, there's just too much choice for anyone to really care.
Yes, I do agree. But I also recognize that by virtue of your name, there will be a certain level of hyper anticipation around what you're going to do.
Also, hot take. I don't think Michael B. Jordan's even all the way up there.
I'm using him as a rough guide because I'm trying to think about names.
Idris Elba.
Who was the first? Idris Elba. I was thinking Idris Elba now.
Denzel Washington.
If Denzel,
Idris Elba doesn't belong in the same conversation as Denzel.
No, he doesn't. He does not as Denzel. But if Denzel was to screenwrite it was a major flop, it would be a massive disappointment.
People didn't like his Shakespeare thing.
Oh, Macbeth.
Yeah. There's some people that trashed that a bit.
Like,
it was black and white.
Disappointment.
Yeah.
Just by virtue of who you are. And so even like directors like Spielberg is highly critiqued whenever he does a film that is unsuccessful. But obviously he's a director. That's his lane. But yeah, I just think diversity needs to start way before what we see on the screens. The people making the decisions, the people starting the conveyor belt, then we need diversity from there. Yeah. And so it's not just what we see, it needs to be that. And it's, as Peter's saying, when we have diversity on the people who are writing these screenplays and stuff, then they'll be writing from a place of experience. And so they'll be able to really write a black character and that is not hollow, that isn't two-dimensional. That is a fully formed black individual based off of lived like actual experiences who can be an actual character and not just the white interpretation of a black character or whatever. And then diversity then means it's not just putting black people into these spaces, but brown, and like Chinese and Asian, like all of these people, creating spaces for all of these people. And I actually heard a quote that was very, very interesting. It's along the lines of, when you get into a space of opening doors for people, make sure you open doors for people who don't always look like you. If you look around the room and the room looks like you, there's a problem. If everyone in the room looks like you, there's a problem.
Yeah, let me just look around the screen quickly.
It's mad.
Can't read the paper.
but in this space, that is what we're going for. And it isn't at the exclusion of. It's very much just like, we're looking at life from this lens as this race of people.
And considering, like, in this space, because a lot of what we talk about is Christian and thoughts and commentary on that. Actually, we don't all look the same. We don't all think or have the same opinions. So there is still diversity here.
I mean, you guys kind of look the same.
There's intellectual diversity with some people at the bottom of the ladder, other people at the top.
Very far bottom.
No. Yo, boys, it's something for you.
All I'm saying is, it takes a while for the intellectually deficient to come up with responses.
Not me, boy. Man's quick off the dome. I could be a battle rapper, bro.
All right, yo.
The insecurity's fair out right now.
We've hit an hour already, man. We've hit an hour already.
Okay, let's round up. That was funny, though. That was funny. Hookups.
Can I go first?
Yes,
you can.
Speaking of diversity, so for you guys that have actually watched it, I don't know if you like it, but there's a live action Full Metal Alchemist on Netflix. There was one like a couple years ago, and then there's a new 2-part that's been released this year. First one's out already, The Revenge of Scar, and then there's the second one coming out on the 24th. I watched The Revenge of Scar, and again, I really like it. I haven't watched Full Metal Alchemist before, but I really like it. And then the next one's coming out on the 24th. I think it's The Final Alchemy or something like that. So yeah, Full Metal Alchemist is my hookup.
I'm on there right now.
Live action on Netflix. Yeah.
You gonna go next, Moses?
Who's crying?
Oh, you can hear that. That's Zara. Yeah. Anita was with her, so I'm guessing she's tried to put her down and she's refusing to sleep. So I'm gonna jump out in a second to go and check it out.
Cool.
All right. So my hookup. Okay, go first, Moses.
No, go for it.
No, I talk. I don't actually have a hookup yet.
You know, I had one until I started looking for Full Metal Alchemist. I've forgotten it, which isn't very good.
I need a second.
Yeah.
Let me find something to hook up. Oh, okay. I've got hookup. It's a YouTube channel and an Instagram as well, and all of those things. Property by Kazi. He's a South London-based property developer, investor kind of person. And I've just been watching him for like the past couple of weeks, and just watching him flipping houses and buying houses, doing them up, refurbing them, and selling them. He's really good.
Oh.
So if you're looking to get into property, check him out. He's got some really good stuff. He interviews other property people, so you can get different perspectives on how they've done stuff compared to him and stuff. It's really good. Property by Kazi. That's Kazy. Or Property with Kazi by Kazi. One of them. Peter can look it up. Thanks.
Mad. So my hookup is a selfish one. It's self-promotion, and I may do this for a while, but I am dropping a digital exhibition on my Instagram next month. So that's the hookup for me. Forms the beauty of nature, or the form of nature's beauty, or whatever I call it. That is so poor. The poetic form of nature. That's it. The poetic form of nature. It's starting from next month sometime. There's going to be some stuff going out. So just.
And where can we find it?
On the Instagram, on the gram. So the hookup is my gram. There's a digital exhibition coming out next month.
Say the gram so we know.
Oh, HMuseh. HMuseh. So follow, like, comment, subscribe, all of them things there. Drop a little change in the Patreon. No, I'm joking. I don't even have a Patreon.
Send money to me. I'll take it happily.
I'm gonna start doing like the Americans, Cash App. Just follow the thing. Just look out next month. Something's dropping. I'm going to be dropping some promotional stuff in the meantime, just to kind of give you guys a taste of when and where to look out for different things. But next month there's something happening, and then potentially the month after there's something happening again. So just it's the gram, HMuseh.
Cool. All right, we're signing out. Shout out to Reed for the intro, outro music, Karen Turner, Audrey, amazing logo. Twitter at The Furnace UK. What happened here? Instagram at TBF Furnace. You can find us at SoundCloud.com.
I'm still here.
So why are you telling me your screen?
Fam, I think I put spice in my eye, so I'm wiping my eye, and I'm not trying to do it on camera.
Oh, God.
You can find us at SoundCloud.com/The Blacksmith Furnace on all good podcast websites and apps. Blacksmith Furnace with the apostrophe. I butchered that wrong. It's okay, guys. You know already. You've been here for time. And if you haven't, you'll be here for time. So check it out on the next episode. You'll know.
But man, I really want to say with my one red eye, I really want to say, I know we said it before, we've stopped saying it. But if you're enjoying this podcast, please, please, please leave a review on whatever podcasting app you're using. It really helps out, just helping people discover the podcast and them things there. So leave a review, share the thing, just show love on whatever site you're using.
And now that we're on YouTube, you can leave tips. Just saying.
I haven't set up our channel to do that.
What are you doing? Peter, that's a potential revenue stream that could be coming our way. And if not our way, my way.
The way someone is just gonna leak your address,
Peter, 7 streams of income. That's what the billionaires be saying. It starts from here.
Yeah.
So you need to build another 6.
Yeah, no, it's 5. No, 4 even. 4.
Oh, you already patterned 3, yeah?
I got a little bit here and there.
You got a pattern 3, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, this can be number 4 or 3 or 5.
Bro, can you count?
All right, guys. I need to run.
And then we can get affiliate links, and then we can get merch, Blacksmith Furnace t-shirts, maybe even we can make a Blacksmith Furnace anvil.
What's going on? Man's trying to make money these times. The kids crying.
We can make a Blacksmith Furnace anvil and hammer. Make 5 of them so they're limited edition. Okay, this is the Blacksmith Furnace side of that.